Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 314. What's going on, everybody? So, Bill Richardson, Mr. New Mexico himself, is back in the news as we're finding out that he is accused of being involved in a scheme that provided him with hundreds of thousands of dollars in kickbacks and bribes, and he used all of that money to fund his deviant, disgusting, luxurious life. Now, those of us who follow the Jeffrey Epstein case, we understand just exactly who this smarmy son of a bitch is. Bill Richardson is credibly accused by Virginia of taking part in the assault while she was being trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. And now, this story breaks, this news comes out, and we call that, folks, adding meat to the bone. And what it does is it also goes towards Virginia's credibility once again. Bill Richardson's another guy who said, I've never met this woman. I've never met this girl. I had no idea what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. I only took one trip to the ranch. Meanwhile, we all knew he's BSing us, right? All of these people, they're all involved in the same game of marathon running when it comes to putting distance between themselves and Jeffrey Epstein. And good old Billy Boy Richardson is and was no different. But now, with these new revelations hitting the news, you would have to think the spotlight would be turned up on Bill Richardson, wouldn't it? You would have to think that people would be a lot more interested in his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, wouldn't they? Bill Richardson is a power player for many years in the Democratic Party, and one of the most powerful figures in New Mexico, politically speaking. Do you think it was a coincidence, folks, that Jeffrey Epstein bought that ranch? Let's jump into this article from the Daily Mail and see what they have for us. Headline: Former New Mexico Democratic Governor Bill Richardson is accused of raking in hundreds of thousands in bribes and kickbacks to fund debauched lifestyle, including sexual services and favors. But yeah, he is above reproach, right? He's not somebody who would have ever been involved with Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. He would have never had girls trafficked to him from Epstein, right? I mean, he's a man of impeccable character, obviously. A pillar of the community. An ex-governor. A power player on the political scene. He could never be guilty of this stuff, folks. Come on. The question is, will the legacy media get involved and expose him? I have my doubts. This article was authored by Ryan Parry. He's the West Coast editor for the Daily Mail. The scandal-plagued former governor of New Mexico, who Virginia Roberts claims she had underage sex with on Jeffrey Epstein's orders, has been dragged into the mud once again. I got news for you. He's never been out of the mud, in my opinion. This guy has been firmly rooted in some quicksand in the middle of a swamp, in the middle of God knows where. That's how much he's in the mud, in my opinion. And he's never been out of my crosshairs. All of these people that have been credibly accused have been put to blast here on the podcast, from Bill Richardson to Wexner to Glenn Dubin, you name it. All of these people who have been credibly accused have been part of our ongoing discussion here on the podcast, and this is the reason why. Again, remember, it's not what we know, folks, it's what we can prove. And the chasm between what I know about this case and what I can prove about this case is gigantic. But now that it's coming out here in the news, well, it is time for us to dive on in, right? It's time for us to eviscerate Mr. Billy Boy Richardson. Career politician Bill Richardson has been accused of raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes and kickbacks while in office money which allegedly funded a luxury and debauched lifestyle, including sexual services and favors, according to a recently unsealed legal complaint obtained by DailyMail.com. Translation: he was paying for sex, paying for women, paying for sexual favors, bribes, etc., etc. That's the accusation. And when you take a look at who Bill Richardson really is, and you see the things he's been involved with in his life, I don't find it to be that far of a stretch, folks, to be honest with you. In my opinion, all of this stuff rings true. According to the lawsuit, Richardson ran a scam dubbed the Richardson Ring, which saw the one-time governor benefiting from money he grafted from business investments into the state of New Mexico in the early 2000s. Now remember, it's very critical that we remember the time frame, the early 2000s. Jeffrey Epstein had not been prosecuted yet. Jeffrey Epstein was still a man who was accepted wholly by the media and so-called polite society. In turn, Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Richardson had quite the relationship. The greedy politician lined his own pockets with cash, used some money to fund his political campaigns and organizations, and also enjoyed lavish meals, wine and liquor, as well as luxury travel and entertainment, the legal filing claims. And now remember, Zorro Ranch has yet to be raided. Bill Richardson has yet to sit down and give an oath give a testimony under oath about what he is accused of. But yet, he's running around spending all of this basically stolen money on lavish meals, wine, booze, liquor, luxury travel, entertainment. And meanwhile, these survivors are still battling tooth and nail to even be recognized by a segment of society. If that doesn't make your blood boil, and if that doesn't show you the two-tier world we're living in, forget the two-tier justice system. There's a world where these people think they operate, and then there is the world for the rest of us. But what's happening now and what we're seeing before our eyes is they're getting a dose of reality. And they're starting to understand that people worldwide will no longer sit by while they're lied to, stole from, and having their children trafficked by their so-called leaders. People are standing up everywhere and taking note. Richardson, 72, served as governor for New Mexico from January 1st, 2003 to December 31st, 2010. And during that time, he was the chairman of the State Investment Council. So not only was he the governor, he was the chairman for the State Investment Council. So you know he had great lateral ability to make investments and to move contracts one way or the other. And according to this lawsuit, he was moving those in a manner to benefit him directly and not the state of New Mexico. Shocking, huh? Another one of these thieving-ass politicians caught up with Jeffrey Epstein and his sex ring. Seems to be a trend at this point, doesn't it? Richardson's alleged pay-to-play scheme was exposed by a man called Frank Foy and made public in unsealed court documents in January 2009. The resulting public scandal forced the SIC to begin investigating kickbacks in state investment business and Richardson himself. Now, in a civil action filed in Bernalillo County, New Mexico in May, but only unsealed last week, it's alleged that Richardson oversaw a sophisticated cover-up of his scheme. And the criminal portion of it definitely was never going to go anywhere. We see how inept the law enforcement is in New Mexico. We see how inept the FBI office in New Mexico is. We see how inept the prosecutors are. There's no way they have the stomach to go after Bill Richardson. But what I will mention, do you remember how we were talking about the Public Corruptions Unit being in charge of the Ghislaine Maxwell case? And that they were in charge of the Jeffrey Epstein case as well? Well, this is one of the reasons that might be so. To go along with Florida, you have a lot of guys like Bill Richardson, folks, who are protected in their state. But when it comes to these federal cases, there's nothing more one of these enterprising agents loves less than getting one of these politicians arrested. And you have to think that with the Public Corruptions Unit, them being involved, that they are looking into people like Richardson, and stuff like this cannot be good for him. This is coming at a terrible time for Bill Richardson as the Jeffrey Epstein case begins to bloom. The lawsuit claims that Governor Richardson was able to place his trusted operatives in state government jobs to cover up his wrongdoing. The documents allege Richardson installed several key allies into the SIC to help cover his tracks and thwart any corruption probe. And remember, this was going on all at the same time that Jeffrey Epstein was operating in New Mexico. In fact, right in the same time frame where we know that these allegations occurred. So Bill Richardson in New Mexico was putting all of his cronies in all of these positions of power so that they would avoid the spotlight and not get caught up in a corruption probe. Now, does it make sense to you why the person I spoke with down in New Mexico that was ex-law enforcement left their job? Makes a lot of sense to me when you start adding the context, right? When you start putting that meat back on the bone, you start to understand how bad things are in New Mexico and how corrupt things seem to be. The filing states, so far the defendants have succeeded in covering up Bill Richardson's wrongdoing. To date, upon information and belief, Bill Richardson has managed to evade being deposed under oath about his graft. Again, they never go under oath, right? He's avoiding going under oath here. He's never went under oath for his involvement with Epstein and his alleged behavior with Virginia, and he'll continue to avoid it as long as he's allowed. That's why the federal government needs to step in. It added, as Governor Bill Richardson controlled the hiring of all state employees in the executive branch, he used his control to carry out corruption and to cover it up. So what else did he cover up? What else was he involved with Jeffrey Epstein? Was there money laundering going on? I don't know. Was there? Probably. I don't have evidence to prove that directly, but guess what, folks? When we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, we know that it was more than just the sex trafficking ring. And I'll tell you another thing. Angela Clemente, who we talked about recently on the show, is onto something in New Mexico. She most certainly is onto something in New Mexico, and I think that this coming to light about Bill Richardson is only going to ignite her more and put more steam in her sails, wind in her sails, to get to the bottom of whatever the hell is going on in New Mexico. I will be following what she does there, what she has going on there and then in Ohio, because there is no explanation for how corrupt things are in New Mexico. And there certainly is no explanation for how much of a hub of human trafficking it is. The suit, the paperwork states, is brought on behalf of the state of New Mexico, Frank Foy, and John Casey under the Fraud Against Taxpayers Act and seeks damages from Richardson and several of his alleged cohorts to repay the state the money they allegedly took. The allegations will bring yet more unwanted attention on Richardson. Richardson's office did not respond to a request by DailyMail.com for comment. Of course they didn't. Why would they? They already know the score. They know that things are getting a bit warm, let us say, under the collar for Jeffrey Epstein's close associates. And we all know, look at the other people that have been credibly accused by Virginia, and look at how things have turned for them. Now, you think that this clown, this Bill Richardson guy, is going to be able to avoid the spotlight any longer now that everybody knows what the deal is? There's no cover anymore. There's no pointing to your impeccable character and saying, well, I would never be involved in this. You journalists, you shouldn't even bother looking into it. That's gone. You have no shield anymore. You're laid bare for everybody to see now, Governor Richardson. And guess what? The full court press is on its way. In court documents in 2015, the once influential politician was accused of being involved with Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking ring. Epstein survivor Virginia Roberts named Richardson as being among a list of powerful men who she was told to have sex with by Epstein and his co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scumbag, and bipedal serpent pal, Ghislaine Maxwell. And so you see how it all ties in, right? If you've been living under a rock or you're just new to the Jeffrey Epstein case, perhaps you might not have heard of Bill Richardson because, like usual, your legacy media is not doing their job. But that's okay. We'll pick up the slack for them. We'll grab that fumble and advance the ball. Bill Richardson is credibly accused by Virginia Roberts of abusing her, while at the same time, these other allegations are coming out. Now you tell me, if it was you or me, your cousin Joe, Mike, or Steve, do you think the FBI would already be at your door kicking it in? Roberts, now 37, filed a Florida lawsuit in 2009 against Epstein, stating she was a sex slave for him from 1999 to 2002. Roberts later alleged that she had sex with British Royal Prince Andrew 3 times and was forced to have sex with Richardson. The court documents were unsealed to the public in 2019, and Prince Andrew and Richardson have denied the claims. I don't think that this is any coincidence that these new claims have been unearthed either. I think it's part of the beginning of an avalanche. Remember what I told you? It's like a dam, right? A dam that starts sprouting holes. First, you have a little bit of water coming out, a couple different places, and then before you know it, the dam busts and the water just comes out in a tsunami. And that's what we're going to have with this information, right? As the trial gets closer and things start to leak out, maybe, we're going to hear a lot more about people like Bill Richardson. Of that, I am sure. Roberts alleges she was told to have sex with Richardson by Epstein and his alleged madam, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag, and bipedal serpent, Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein, who died from suspected suicide in a jail cell in New York last year, owned the huge 10,000-acre Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, where it's believed he assaulted young girls and threw lavish parties for his powerful guests. Not believed, that definitely occurred, okay? There's no maybes there. There's no hypothesizing. That's exactly what occurred. Ghislaine told me from her mouth to do these things, Roberts said in a deposition. Jeffrey told me from his mouth to do these things with these people. Ghislaine instructed me to do the things that I did with Jeffrey Epstein on the very first meeting that I had with him. So she's talking about how, Ghislaine and Epstein both were involved in her grooming, right? She was groomed by Ghislaine to get involved with Epstein, service Epstein, and then from there it was normalized and she was sent out to do the same with Epstein's buddies. When the allegations first emerged, Richardson, who served as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations from 1997 to 1998 and Secretary of Energy under President Bill Clinton from 1998 to 2000, as well as chairman of the 2004 Democratic National Convention, said the claims were completely false. So, could this be why the legacy media isn't running with it? They don't want to give any ammunition to their enemies, right? And we know that there are serious allegations here against Bill Richardson. There has to be a reason why the legacy media is ignoring this. In a statement issued to Fox News by his reps, it said, Governor Richardson has never even been contacted by any party regarding this lawsuit. To be clear, in Governor Richardson's limited interactions with Mr. Epstein, he never saw him in the presence of young or underage girls. Governor Richardson has never been to Mr. Epstein's residence in the Virgin Islands. Governor Richardson has never met Miss Roberts. Yeah, somehow I don't believe your claims. How about that, Governor Richardson? Just like Prince Andrew never met Virginia. These people really think we're going to buy their narrative still. They really think that they can still get away with these sorts of crimes. They don't understand that things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. Just take a look on your streets. Just take a look at social media. People are tired of being tired, folks. The claims date back to the early 2000s, which is also the same time that his co-accused Prince Andrew started doing business in New Mexico with Richardson as part of his role as the UK Special Trade Envoy. And if you remember, just recently I did an article talking about this very thing, Prince Andrew going to New Mexico. So now we have Prince Andrew, Bill Richardson, and good old Bill Clinton hanging out down there, huh? All three credibly accused sexual predators. Boy, isn't that nice. What a trifecta. In October 2003, the prince's trip to New Mexico was front page of the local newspaper, the Santa Fe New Mexican, with the royal and Richardson swapping presents, with the governor giving a black concho belt and receiving a wine coaster made by a cousin of the prince, according to the paper. And again, I laughed about that at the time. A wine coaster? Bro, I'm the Prince of England, but all you're getting is a wine coaster, not a fruit basket. You're not getting some booze. You ain't getting nothing. You're getting a wine coaster, homie. Enjoy it. The pair talked about wanting to increase trade between Britain and New Mexico, with the prince saying he was honored to be here. Yeah, what else did they talk about? I'm sure that they had other conversations as well. You get two deviants together, I'm sure the conversation moves into the direction of deviancy. What do you think? They dined together that night at Richardson's mansion, who told the paper that it was the third time he'd met the prince after meeting in 1999 in Turkey. He happens to be my friend, Richardson added. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I really don't doubt it. You guys have the same hobbies, right? You guys both like being involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and you both like abusing girls that are trafficked by him. So yeah, I'm sure the both of you could be considered friends. This news that has just come out is bad, bad, bad stuff for Bill Richardson. And what it does, folks, again, goes towards the credibility of Virginia Roberts. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you all have a great night.